Hello and welcome to the Clean Slate website and another video. In this video, we're going to discuss new media, or what new media isn't. I don't know, we'll get to it, but I want to read something to you. This is from our current contract, not the new contract, because that's not on the website yet. Even though it was ratified in October, and this is April, we still don't have a printed version, and the only thing that's on the website is an MOA. That would be the changes for the new contract. So this is from the old contract, and this is vitally important. This is found on page 3. It's Article 1 of our contract. And you know what? We just had the golf tournament, the Ralph Clair golf tournament. And I want to tell you that this language was put in this contract by Ralph Clair. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again and again. We should have a building named after this gentleman, not a golf tournament. Because this guy, when I read this to you, you're going to know where he stood and where he came from. This was written, I don't know exactly when it was written, but it came into place sometime around the post-60s. And let's talk about the post-60s as referring to anything made after 1960. So you got to think about the timing and exactly what was going on in Hollywood when this was written. This is the third to last paragraph, Article 1. It can be found at the bottom of page 3. Listen very carefully to what this says. The term employee, as hereinafter used, shall be deemed to mean an employee subject to the terms and conditions of this agreement. The term motion picture, as used herein, shall be deemed to mean motion pictures of any type or nature produced by a producer. It is in the mutual understanding and agreement of the parties hereto that the term motion pictures, as used in this collective bargaining agreement and in all prior basic agreements between the parties, means and includes and has always meant and included motion pictures, whether made on or by film, tape, or otherwise, and whether produced by means of motion picture cameras, electronic cameras or devices, or any other combination of the foregoing, or any other means, methods, or devices now used or which may hereafter be adopted. That includes any type of new media that you want to claim. However, 19 years ago, for whatever reason, Leo Reed agreed to put the last paragraph of this article, of Article 1, into the contract. And that reads, the parties confirm that this agreement does not cover productions made for new media. Now, here's the only problem. In the entire contract, there's no definition of what new media is. It can mean a million things. We're going to get to that in another video later on. We're going to talk about some things that were inserted into the contract, in the first contract that the current administration did. And there are no terms to define that either. And that's what lawyers do, or what businesses do to cover the broadest scope that they can. Okay, so they call everything new media. Now let's discuss new media. Let's talk about it. Movies. The first movie was made in 1888, Roundhay Garden Scene. It was only 2.11 seconds long. But it was still a movie. It's considered the first movie. The arrival of the train was about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. That was in 1896. And Edison invented the kinetoscope in 1894. So prior to the turn of the century, we had movies, we had motion pictures, whether you were actually sitting at a machine and viewing them with cards, flipping through them, or not. Movies. The first talkie was in the early 1800s with 27, 28, whenever that was. But the movies themselves, the motion picture industry, has been around since the turn of the century or before. Television, mechanical TVs, which is the same thing I just described, watching cards flutter through, were invented in the early 1800s. Electric TV came out in 1927. In 1928, the first network, W3XK, and in 1948, NBC, CBS, ABC, and Dumont were all airing between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. Okay? So we have TVs, turn of the century, movies prior to 1950. Let's go to commercials. In 1941, the very first commercial ever aired was a Bull of a Watch commercial. It's 10 seconds long, and it aired during the Brooklyn Dodgers Philadelphia Phillies game. Okay, 1941. You look it up on the internet, it'll show you. It's just silence. It has a picture of a watch, I think, in the Globe, if I remember correctly. Come over here. Cable TV, that was invented in 1948. Cable TV was in rural areas up into the early 70s. Then in the early 70s, it started making its way into more populated areas. The internet. In 1983, ARPANET introduced TCP/IP, which is the Internet Protocols, and in 1990, www was coined, or the World Wide Web phrase was born, and that's when the Internet came about. So, that's 30 years ago, 70 years ago, over 100 years ago, 80 years ago. There's nothing new about new media. It aired over airwaves. It aired over cable. Now it's aired over satellite. It's still a movie. It's still a television show. And it's still a commercial. It's the same things they've been doing. They're just delivering it in a different manner. It was over free airwaves. As soon as the government decided how they could monetize the network, broadcast networks, they did so. And then commercials just flew. They had to pay for it somehow. So advertising, and that's when the explosion of the advertising industry in the 50s and 60s. I never watched Mad Men, but that's what that was all about, the explosion in the heyday of the advertising industry when everything was monetized.